Good evening, I'm Shumaisa and you're watching PTV World. Today we're joined by a gentleman who's known for his sharp wit, coupled with a very firm grasp on current affairs. And perhaps that's because that is the nature of his job. Any question thrown at him is addressed in an astute and a very intelligent manner that even leaves the people asking the question a little dumbfounded. However, we're going to try to do something different today. I have the pleasure of being joined today by the Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Chaudhry Fawad Hussain. Assalamu alaikum ji. Thank you very much. As I started off with this, you are known as a gentleman, whether it's Urdu or English, as hard as the question is, you come at it with a sharp wit and a very keen, acute sense of humor. Is that something that comes naturally to you, or is it because you're a lawyer?
I think, what can I say? I mean, it must be a combination. Yesterday was, I think, there's one couplet in Urdu that क्या करूँगा जो हो गया इश्क में भी नाकाम मुझे तो और कोई काम कर नहीं आता.
So you're saying that you've lost in love many a time, I suppose, and therefore this is all.
This is all you know.
This is all you know. Okay, good, because we're going to ask you a couple of tough questions, and I realize that it's a tough job because as a Minister for Information and Broadcasting, you have to have the knowledge to answer a whole range of questions. So let's start off with the first question that people in Pakistan are most concerned about, Minister, and that is the economy. You know, when it comes to the economy, very recently we heard another minister from the cabinet, Minister Wavda, make a statement which, if it was true, and I hope to God it is true, is very heartwarming, then apparently within a few days everything is going to turn around. Yet when we look at the numbers, you know, from the reports from the ADP, or if we look at the economic surveys, it doesn't look that positive.
You see, for everything you have to just go into the background a little bit. Why we are facing this? We have just look at the debt figures. From 1947 to 2008, the total borrowed foreign money was $37 billion. From 2008 to 2018, we borrowed $60 billion more. In the first $37 billion, we built Islamabad, we built Mangla, we built Tarbela, we built Gawadar, and we built motorway and so much others. We actually revamped the whole naval bases, we revamped the whole army in the first $37 billion.
Okay, and this was till 2008, from 1947
to 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. So what actually we did with the $60 billion we got from 2008 to 2018. So the answer of your question actually lies in this era, where the two families, Sharif and Zardari, actually not only plundered the wealth, but by their wrong policies and by their, I would say, the criminal actions vis-a-vis economy, they actually blowed away all this money.
Okay.
So now we are in a chaos. Our imports and exports, our trade deficit is the highest in the history. Our fiscal deficit is the worst in the history. So what options do we have? We have option. We can continue with the borrowing. We will take the money and we will hand over Pakistan with another $60 billion debt.
How much has your government borrowed up until now?
It's much less than the previous government because the fiscal deficit is going down, trade deficit is going down, trade deficit is now 11.4% down, overall 4.2% our fiscal deficit is coming down, and we believe the remittances are going up. So the debt need is going down day by day.
So these are projections, but if we were to look at the overall debt that has been encumbered by the government since it came into power, what would that number be at?
I don't have that number exactly. I can't put a figure on it. But the fact is that it's far less than the previous one. It's actually if you see the fundamentals of economy, the direction of this government is very, you can see, obvious. We want our export base to improve. We want curtailment in imports. We want remittances to come through the legal channels. We are, trying to curb the money laundering. So we are trying to adjust or revamp the basis of economy. But in that manner, obviously, when you have such a huge import and export balance, what will happen? There will be a depreciation of dollar, of rupee, and the dollar rupee parity will be affected. So you have two options. Either you borrow money and spend money on stability of dollar, as Mr. Ishaq Dar did. He blew away $7 billion on just to keep the dollar at 100 rupees. We are not doing that. This 35% depreciation that we have witnessed in the dollar is actually the market economy that is running the whole affair. So we have let the market decide the fate of dollar. We are trying to bring a fundamental changes, and I hope with the passage of time you will see the economy, revival of economy.
I'm sure not just you, I'm sure everybody who's watching this is truly hopeful that there will be a revival. But when you talk about the fact that one of the reasons behind all of this is the difference between the export and import bill. Finance Minister Asad Umar, one of the reasons that is stated between State Bank and policy is that the reason the interest rate was increased was so that our imports would go down. However, we haven't seen that impact on our imports.
No. Actually, you are right in a way that exports have not shown the real increase in the first 3 months, but this is what actually Minister of Industries do apprise the cabinet, and he was of the view that in the first 3 months export will not go up, but in the next 3 months you will see the impact. So actually now this the 3 months will be decisive, and we will see the rise in exports.
Okay, another thing that people accuse the government of, they feel that this this absurd increase that we saw in our gas bills was perhaps to reduce the shortfall in revenue, because people were overbilled, tremendous amounts of people, and when they went to get recourse, they were told, well, you have to pay the bill right now and then we'll look into it. We all know that generally doesn't happen. So this is another thing that the government has been, and the Prime Minister took notice of this, yet there hasn't been any relief.
You see, in 2013, when Mr. Nawaz Sharif took over and Shahid Khan Abbasi was made the energy minister, there was not a 1 rupee debt on the gas system. Mrs. Zardari's government did many blunders, but fortunately the gas was not the one that really affected.
So you will give former President Zardari that credit?
This credit, that at least they had not actually plundered the gas as PMLN did. In 2018, when PMLN left the government, the debt on gas is now 157 billion rupees. Now just tell me that in 5 years what happened? Why this gas has gone from 0 to 157 billion?
But I'm also talking about misbilling over here. I'm not just talking.
No, I'm just now your question has two parts. Number one, the increase in the bill, and second was the overcharging. So what you do now, the UFG or unaccounted for gas is about 50 billion rupees every year.
Okay.
You are buying gas at 1400 MBBTU and you are selling gas at 610 rupees.
Okay.
So this is a 50% difference. Only 23% population has this piped gas facility. Rest of the 73% have no access to the gas. Okay. So now what you are doing actually?
You're subsidizing it, which shouldn't be happening.
That shouldn't be happening. So if you are buying it in 1400, you should sell it in 1400.
But what about the person whose income has already gotten squeezed because of the devaluation? What about that person who now has to pay an excess amount in bills? Think about them.
Exactly. So what we did actually, we came up with this new slab system where the 300 units, 300 MBBTU was the total raise in the bills was 10 rupees. 300 to 500 the raise was about 25 rupees, and after 550 it went up like thing. So what actually happened in this case, what you are pointing out, that when you use 93% of one slab, you automatically get shifted into the other slab. So what happened actually, the overbilling was because it was very cold this time. So people used, even the people whose average use was less than 300 actually used more than 300.
Okay.
So they shifted into second
But
slab.
do you realize what the person who's watching this is going to say? They're going to say, well, you've admitted that because the dollar was artificially controlled, we had no choice but to let the market forces decide. Makes sense. You're also saying that because it was subsidized in the past, we didn't have a choice and the winters were colder.
And thirdly, it's a debt.
It's the debt also. But the person who's watching this is going to say, well, I understand your logic, but do you understand what I'm going through? And especially when the forecast for this year is that the growth rate is not going to be more than a 2.5 to 2.5%. They've lowered the growth rate. So with that, we will see even a harder economic situation, and with unemployment on the rise. It's a tough situation.
Well, no one is denying that. It's a tough situation. And that's the why Prime Minister himself has started austerity, that now all the cabinet members and everyone. You see, can you believe in 8 months, there is not a single government exchequer borne visit by any minister, except the state visits, those have happened. Everyone is sacrificing. There is no TADAs available. Prime Minister himself is not spending a penny on his own from the government exchequer. Everyone is trying to,
tighten their belts. What about the middle class that already has been tightened enough?
Well, the problem is of the middle class.
Because if you can tell them, at least right now we see that the finance minister has gone to Washington to talk about the IMF loan, something that previously had been said by Prime Minister Khan and everybody else very categorically, that we will not go and ask for money, and yet the reality is that you've been left with no choice but to. Can we expect any other stringencies with this?
Well, this is what we are, the whole delay of the IMF was because they were asking too much, that we were not able to do that, because then it would have been, as you just pointed out, already middle class has squeezed, and middle class is affected by all this inflation and other steps. So we wanted to actually save our population from that hardship that IMF people were demanding. So that was a delay. It's not that Asad Umar delayed it for himself, or he was not.
No, he actually said that he wanted to evaluate all the options.
Yeah, and this is what he did actually.
Is the Prime Minister satisfied with the Finance Minister's performance?
Of course, that's why he's Finance Minister.
Okay, but on the other hand, we also hear that there is infighting between the party. I'm not going to name officials. It's not good to go into these petty politics. But even within the cabinet, even within the inner circles,
which party doesn't have that?
A lot of parties do, but a lot of parties think...
Those parties who are just Tanga parties don't have that.
No, I've mentioned this to you, that a lot of parties do have this infighting, a lot of families have this infighting, but a lot of families do not come and air it on TV or on Twitter.
No, actually Twitter and TV is now too fast.
It's part of the family unit now.
It's part of the family unit, and actually sometimes even the fight has not started, it comes on TV and Twitter. So it can actually predict.
Okay, so you're saying that when we hear about it on Twitter or TV, we should just say this is an extension of the family drama.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But you people resolve it and move on.
Well, it's a resolve. As I said, every party, except those few Tonga parties.
But there are only other two large parties, and
they
then we're just left with People's Party.
Huge infighting. Ehtizaz Ahsan Saab just criticized Bilawal Bhutto's visit.
But he's always been vociferous in his criticism, I have to say.
This is what he is. And
who do you see criticizing in PMLN?
And PMLN, you see the Pervez Rashid, Nisar fight was when they were in the government, and now Shahbaz Sharif and Nawaz Sharif fight.
Well, we've heard the rumors. We haven't seen the tweets.
Well, I think many of the MNAs do tell the stories.
Okay, fine. Coming to this, what I want to ask you is, because I want to stick to this. You're a very vociferous person, and you can say the most caustic things with a smile and sort of disarm the person that you're sitting with. Miss Hina Rabbani Khair has said that she will sue you for defamation. That was the leading headline for today.
Yeah, that's why I tweeted the evidence of her default, and I advised her, instead of wasting money on lawyers, pay your bills. And this is actually what happened. In People's Party and PMLN times, most of the leaders actually are just defaulters. Mr. Rohel Asghar, who is MNA from Lahore, was actually paying a gas bill of 12,000 rupees. That has now gone up to about 100 million, about 10 million, sorry.
Okay.
120 actually. So this is the kind of thing they are doing actually. Unfortunately, the husband of Hina Rabbani Khair owns this factory, and again they have got a stay order, and the stay order is continuing for 2 years. So this is the system actually, the loopholes in the system, they continue to benefit.
Okay, and you keep calling it out, and your party has always called it out, and we always heard one of the slogans was that when Prime Minister Imran Khan comes to power, we will see that there will be accountability, there will be justice. At the same time, we see these NAB cases that are being pursued, and people's first question is, we see accountability where people are convicted, some are not, but at the end of the day, none of the money is ever recovered.
Well, because they love money.
They love money, but you're saying it's ill-gotten money.
Well,
so
I think
where's the recovery?
I think they would prefer to live all their life. They would prefer to spend all their life in the jails instead of paying back the money. And actually, we're not even asking them for their money. We are just asking them, give them back our money.
Right.
So 5 of the former prime ministers are right now facing corruption charges. One of the former prime minister is in jail. More are likely to go. So this is what the law is. Actually, we don't have a kingship here.
I understand, but Minister, you're also a lawyer. So if I was to ask you, when will there be justice, Minister? What would you say?
Well, I think.
Or will these courts is there a problem with the courts where these things just keep pending and delaying?
Yes, but this is the problem everywhere in the world, where the delay is a something affiliated with this common law legal system that we have. But right now, actually, I'm quite satisfied with the way things are.
Are you?
Yeah, because you see, most of these people, Mrs. Zardari is now facing court, Mr. Nawaz Sharif is now facing court, Shahbaz Sharif and his family is facing court. So these were the peoples who actually plundered this country. Everyone knows that. And now they have 2 options, either to go to jail or give back our money.
Well, some of them go to jail, but yet unlike any other, not that all my sympathies for people who have health conditions, and I do understand that, but the average prisoner in your jails who probably has not committed a crime more than, I would say maybe 10,000 or 15,000, and sometimes even trumped up charges. They don't get medical facilities to come out and whenever they want to.
Well,
and you had categorically said that no, that should not be the case, and yet the court ruled for it. And what can you do when the court rules for it?
Well, frankly, that's the case even in the first word, where actually it's difficult to, to convict rich man, especially proving a case against filthy rich is something really difficult. We have an example of O.J. Simpson.
But O.J. Simpson eventually went to jail, not for the same charges.
But how long it took?
It took a very long time and on different
charges. So that's
charges.
the problem, So whenever you want to bring mighty and powerful and rich in the docks, be prepared, it will take long.
We should be prepared that it's going to take time.
Well, Nawaz Sharif is in jail, others will go to jail. Maybe not that long as, because the process is already 3-4 years old.
Will we be able to recover the money?
I don't know, frankly, because plea bargain is something is provided by law, but then this is the choice of the accused. He would like to apply for that or not. You can't really force them, and then we can't torture them.
The courts can. You cannot. The Prime Minister cannot. I cannot. But the courts can.
No. Even the courts cannot insist on plea bargain.
Okay. All right. Coming back to this, because you've mentioned Mr. Zardari and you've mentioned Mr. Nawaz Sharif, 2-3 days ago, if you recall, I think because now People's Party is feeling the heat and they're feeling the pressure. So they have actually said that they will call for a long march. We've seen, yes, well, Abu Bachao, for those who are watching, the translation is, let's save my daddy. Daddy over here being Mr. Zardari and the kid being Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. So what I want to know is, just so the audience who doesn't understand it, so it's a Save My Father campaign. But the father is now meeting other political heavyweights, and he has said, and they have said that they will do this march. So you see the opposition. Look, economically, it's a tough place. By
heavyweight, you mean Fazlur Rehman?
Well, Fazlur Rehman, with all due
really
respect.
It's really heavy.
Okay, but with all due respect, even politically, the man has a person with sharp acumen, and he's feeling very left out right now. So he will want to take a part in any opposition that moves forward. Are you people comfortable with it? Does it at least unnerve you a little bit or not at all?
Well, frankly, if you just, IRI survey is out now and you see PTI is about 57-58% approval rates, whereas People's Party is about 18-19% and PMLN is about 20%. So you can see even all these parties together are no match to PTI. So I think instead of, why would we care? Frankly, this was our election manifesto, and Imran Khan and PTI came to power for accountability. And if we go back on this decision,
that will not be taken kindly by the public at all, because
public.
that was your slogan.
And this is the only thing they are insisting on. For example, what Nawaz Sharif and Zardari want, they just want the settlement of their cases. That's it. That's it.
You know what they
that's
say?
Their
they
politics.
say we really want this government to finish its tenure. We've always wanted to. We do not want to derail democracy. However, we have been left with no choice but to do this. And the reason why I'm saying, when you talk about the polls and what the likability in the polls say, let me also remind you that there are religious parties in Pakistan who perhaps don't have such a big vote bank, but they have a lot of street power. So likewise, when you have opposition parties get together, when you say march, how much does it cost? It's about getting the street power together, and that can unnerve a system.
Frankly, any government obviously would be upset if the opposition has street power. But luckily, what we believe, we have just seen a Caravane, some train march.
Yes, we did.
Something.
Actually, it was on former Prime Minister Bhutto's death anniversary or birth anniversary, the 40th. And they started the train from Sindh, continuing it.
And we have seen that despite the fact that People's Party is in the government in Sindh, and people were not there. It was very few people who came on the train stations. Likewise, the Mr. Nawaz Sharif keeps appearing in the courts. They call all the workers, they send messages to them that they must come forward on the courts, and we see the outcome. So frankly, these both parties needs to look inward. Just one thing I would like to say, that People's Party and PMLN are institutions. We need political parties, and federal parties are important. These are the parties who are in the field like for 40, 50, 60 years. So these parties are important. So when we say that Nawaz Sharif and Zardari they have plundered, and we really want accountability of them, at the same time we would like to preserve these institutions of People's Party and PMLN.
Okay.
So,
but your demand is that they should clean house.
They should clean house. They should look inward. You see, why common man should care for Zardari's money? Why common man should come on the street to save Nawaz Sharif's loot and plunder? You don't. The problem right now with these political parties is that their leadership has made them hostage, and they want to use these political parties for their personal gains and wealth. Actually, the whole narrative of Nawaz Sharif and Zardari, that their political parties should actually work for them to get rid of their cases. This is not really a sellable thing. It doesn't hold any currency. So People's Party and PMLN has to look inward, and they have to think for political philosophy. Like PTI, why people are with PTI?
I was going to come to that. Why is it, do you think, that when you came and did the sit-in, the dharna in Islamabad, you had people come in and join you, and it went on for a large number of days? What is it that was different in that environment that you had people come out and help you, and why do you think they won't come out for their political leadership right now?
Because of the ideology. People come when there is a larger ideology, before them. Why would people come to save someone's wealth? And everyone knows it's ill-gotten wealth. Why would people come out on the street? So when PTI and Imran Khan was talking against the corruption, they were talking for the free elections, they were talking of the middle class revolution and justice. These are the ideas that attract common man. Why would people come out on the street for Nawaz Sharif and Zardari's wealth? So that's one of the primary thing that
differentiates.
They have lost the narrative, and they need to find out the narrative first if they want to do politics. As I said, look what Imran Khan has done actually. The two greatest thing Imran Khan has done, one, he has brought Karachi back in the federal politics. This has happened first time after Lady Fatma Jinnah's election. 1964. After 1964 and 2018, whole politics of Karachi and Sindh was linguistic. Imran Khan has brought Karachi politics into the federal belt. Likewise, Imran Khan has mainstreamed tribal area. Not again a small thing again.
But that was also something that had been on the cards for other parties like the People's Party. They had always said that we have to mainstream. Fatah. It's a good thing that it happened under your tenure, but I'm sure you had a lot of support.
People's Party's problem is they don't walk the talk. For example, you're right, they talk of Fatah mainstreaming and We hear Bilawal Bhutto
But they
Zardari's
supported
speeches.
you, right?
No. But when it comes to the share in NFC, there is only one province that has refused to give its share, that is Sindh, despite making a promise.
Do you think they're using it as a card to be played to negotiate for something?
Not for something, only one thing.
What?
Just drop our cases. Just don't pursue our cases. That's it.
Okay. But there can be accommodation in politics. I remember for the longest time, over a decade now, the one party where it actually got quite nasty when it came to even a discourse on TV was between PTI and specifically Prime Minister Imran Khan and the MQM leadership, and they were at loggerheads. Cases will be done. This is a party that is constituted. A lot was said, which I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat it because we're working towards a national agenda, and now people are just sitting back in shock and awe that PTI and MQM are going to work together.
No, actually,
it's a legitimate question.
No, it's a legitimate question, but the answer is very visible. It was Altaf Hussain and his cronies that was the problem. Obviously, Farooq Naseem and Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui are not the people who constituted his militant wings. Altaf Hussain himself is responsible of killing of 7,000 people in Karachi. Whereas Farooq Naseem and likes Faisal Sabzwari and this Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui and others, they have nothing to do with that. So when you actually, this MKM is very different from Altaf Hussain's party. Okay. So obviously we are working together.
So couldn't we start a new trend by, instead of saying that Pakistan People's Party is a party that is corrupt, or PMLN is a party which has nepotism? Why don't we make it person specific because we've realized that if a party is cleaned, as you are saying.
Actually, if you see just a few minutes back, I actually said this, and I said that People's Party and PMLN are institutions that must be respected, and they must.
Yes, you did say that.
Actually, they must come up with their own philosophy of politics.
Okay, coming back to your own political infighting within the party, I hope it's resolved now, because we've seen, not just in any specific organization but across the board, we've seen a lot of delays in policies moving forward because there doesn't seem to be an understanding amongst the groups within the party, and it has caused a lot of delays in organizations.
Well, the problem of delay is frankly not really because of the party politics, it's because of the bureaucracies.
The bureaucratic process that is being stalled.
Red tapeism and very inefficient bureaucracy that we have. The problem in Pakistan is, frankly, in years and years after years, we have sacrificed merit, we have sacrificed processes, we have given loyalty, the loyalty has preceded everything. So now what we have actually is a very, very mediocre bureaucracy, and you have to work with it.
But the Prime Minister appealed initially, I remember, after taking oath. One of the segments of society that he actually reached out to and requested, he was with the bureaucracy. He said, could you please come on board, could you please facilitate us? But when I speak to the bureaucracy, do you know what they say? They say, well, we would love to help, but the fact is we are actually scared. We're in a state of fear. Because even if we sign and let's say it's the right thing, tomorrow there could be a case. Therefore, they're just not moving papers. And you know that in Pakistan, even to do the smallest work, you need an NOC, you need the paper to be moved. That has become a huge cause of economic inactivity.
Well, this is one reason, I would say, but in my personal view, in my ministry, for example, I'm very clear about it that if any corruption happens or anything, and I couldn't take care of my ministry, then it's my responsibility. So I would say that the other ministers must also encourage bureaucrats to take decisions.
But the bureaucrat will turn around and choose this minister, Fawad. You will serve your tenure and you will go. And most likely, because look at the precedent that has been set. Like a politician, you're going to make money, you will have the lawyers, you will have your assets abroad, we are going to get stuck. That is their problem.
Frankly, if you are transparent, if you have a
how do you assure the bureaucrats
the positive will, it's not a problem. The primary problem, I would say, is not even the will. It's I would say the capacity. Capacity is a big issue in our bureaucracy, in our systems.
Yet the same capacity of the bureaucracy, when they want to get work done, they get it done overnight. The way files move, I
it
mean,
depends on the person.
It
depends on the person who is actually the top bureaucrat. If the top bureaucrat knows his job, he will deliver.
It can be
otherwise
used
he
for
won't.
good and for bad.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, obviously. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's
Okay. Another thing, when you look at the statistics and the surveys for Pakistan, unemployment is also on the rise. And given that the growth rate is 2.5%, the reason I'm mentioning unemployment is because that specifically also affects the youth.
Just one guess of IMF.
No, not just the IMF. If you look at the Asian Development Bank report, they've also said because
They
the
said
growth rate,
4.5%.
they said because the growth rate is low, the new entrants to the market will not be absorbed. They said in order to absorb the entrants, we need at least a minimum of 7.5% growth rate. The reason I mentioned the youth is because that is a huge part of your vote bank. You know, these are the optimistic children, I would say, between the ages of 15 and 25 who voted you in. If they are not employed, if they don't get their deliverance, then they will also become jaded with their party.
Well, frankly, People's Party's growth rate was 2.8%, and
but
they
people
created,
didn't have expectations from
no,
People's Party.
just let me make
Sure.
a point. People's Party's growth rate was 2.8%, and they created 6.9 million jobs.
Okay.
PMLN growth rate was 4.8%, and they created only 5.7 million jobs. So creation of job has actually little to do with, it has, you know, to do with growth, but you can have more jobs even in the less growth. So issue right now, why this growth is slow? Because number one, in the PMLN era, there was a first phase of CPAC going on, so there was huge infrastructure projects, those were in. Secondly, they spent the loan on a mega
infrastructure projects.
So what we have done right now is we have squeezed the PSDP, and this is always important for the stabilization of economy. Whenever you go for the stabilization of economy, temporarily growth rate does get affected.
Okay.
But if you want a stable economy, if you want a stable basis of economy, you have to have a fundamental changes in your economy, and that is what we are trying to do.
You do understand that in countries there's different economic views. One economic view is that when you have a country like Pakistan and you look at the socio-economic factors, then it is important to have these large-scale infrastructure projects so that there is a trickle-down effect and jobs are created. So why would you just completely neglect that?
No. The problem is, how will you do mega projects when you don't have money in your kitty? What will you do? You have only one option: borrow money from outside and bring mega projects. Why would you do that? Because ultimately you will shift the burden of huge loans to your children.
But what if those projects are viable and successful and you're able to pay it back? The idea of taking a loan is to pay it back. It's not to just keep making interest payments.
That's an issue, no? This is what we will do. We will take loans to reset our distribution network of electricity. We will take loans for the mega projects of dams that can repay the amounts. Okay. But if for example, if you take loans, for example, they took a loan of $3 billion and built this metro train in Lahore, which now you need 17 billion rupees just to keep the train on track when it will be functional. They built metros. You need 7 billion rupees a year just to keep the buses.
Miscalculation and badly dealt with projects. But what if projects are dealt with the way you're saying your government wants to, effectively, efficiently, with accountability,
but this is what we will
with
do.
Profitability factored in? What's wrong with large-scale infrastructure projects?
No, that's nothing. We will do that, but we will not do the luxury projects.
Okay.
The PMLN and especially the Fawad Chaudhry's emphasis was on the luxury projects.
Okay.
That has actually hurt economy more than anything else.
So I want to ask you, what kind of projects do you guys want to, does your government specifically want to address, which will not be luxury projects, but also create jobs, also create...
For example, we have just launched a housing scheme. In the first phase, more than 100,000 more 100,000 apartments will be built in Balochistan and Islamabad. This we think is a very, very feasible project. We are going to build this Dhyama Bhasha Dam, which another is a huge mega project, and we believe it will come. We are going to build Muhammad Dam, which is another great project. So these are the kind of projects that we're trying to.
Well, people look at the history, the past. In the previous government, you actually had a government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and when you're talking about transit projects, one project that is really under criticism is the BRT project, and people are criticizing it. They're saying that forget financial mismanagement, let's just leave that aside. That's also something that's being debated. A, it wasn't finished on time, and B, they said the way that it has been constructed is inaccurate.
Well, frankly, it's a provincial project, and
people look at it as a reflection of PTI's government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, because it was started at that time that look, we'll do a better job.
Well, obviously the police reforms also started at that time, the bureaucratic reforms also started at that time.
You get credit for the police reforms, you get credit for the education reforms.
Poverty reduction. So
all the things, those you get credit for.
Yeah, but this one project went wrong. For example,
Why did it go wrong?
No, I don't think so. It went wrong because there are two views. One view is that it's a it will be a hugely beneficial project for the people of Peshawar.
Whenever it's completed.
It will be completed in within months now.
Why do you think?
Because it was actually why it was delayed. The answer is why it is delayed. The delay is that because they have added more area into that. And they have added more buses into that. So, I think it's an engineering project.
There are also cases that have been opened against
and Asian Development Bank has actually praised the project.
Okay. There are also cases against people that are part of your government. Minister Khattak.
There are no cases, there are allegations.
Allegations of cases. They talk about corruption over there. I mean, even if there's an allegation, I would assume that somebody like Prime Minister Khan would still look into it and take a very critical view of it.
Of course, 3 ministers have resigned from this government on when their allegations were formalized. Mere allegation is not enough, but if the allegation is formalized in the court of law, the ministers have resigned. Actually, in PTI government is the only government who has kind of created this tradition of people resigning even when the allegations are not proved.
Are they forced to resign, or is the resignation voluntary? Voluntary, I would like to know, because it takes a very strong person to say, listen, I'm actually at fault, I made a mistake, I don't deserve this.
I think since there are no prime minister, so most of them just come straight into the line.
And they say that we're not going to go ahead. Coming back to...
But you see, difference is, Aleem Khan was arrested, the day he was arrested, he sent his resignation to Chief Minister. Now look at Agha Saraj Durrani. He's in the custody, he's the Speaker of the House. Every day he called assembly just to keep himself out of the jail. So this is a difference between people's party culture and
PTI
culture.
We're also hearing rumors of a cabinet reshuffle. Is it just a rumor, or is it based on reality?
Well, this is the discretion of the Prime Minister. We all serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister.
But is there talk of it? Because you are in the inner circles, you do attend the cabinet meetings, obviously. So you would know.
Well, Prime Minister would, when Prime Minister would like to change, he will not consult his cabinet. He will just.
Has he expressed dissatisfaction?
No, actually, he publicly expressed satisfaction on the cabinet.
Okay, you are the Minister of Information and Broadcasting, an institution that comes within your jurisdiction is Pakistan Television. And for the last few months, we have seen inactivity. You yourself went and appeased the unions, you spoke to them. The protests continue to this day. Things aren't moving forward. People, their demands are some just, some unjust. Forget not being met. They're not even being spoken to or addressed. Why is
that's unfortunate, actually.
Why is that happening?
Well, I think there's a disconnect. Frankly, the way the present administration of PTV ran the affairs of PTV was not in the interest of PTV itself. On the day first, I thought that there needs reforms. PTV world needs a real attention of the government, because in Urdu we just keep saying things to each other. The world doesn't listen to us. So if we want
the world does listen to you very acutely, and the world follows. So don't get me wrong, it's a vehicle that can be used very effectively.
So that's why I thought that PTV world should be the focus of our attention. We should actually bring resources for the PTV world, and we should make it a model English news channel in Pakistan. That has not been done. Secondly, I thought that PTV needs to be done very professionally and efficiently. You can't
and right now we don't even see a management.
Money. Yeah, now there's not even a management. Now, I mean, it's a Prime Minister's office. They know everything. We have already written to them. It's for them to take a decision.
The union workers seem quite fond of you.
Well, I'm a politician.
Because you're listening to them.
Well, frankly, I'm a politician, and we thrive on people's wishes. We can't really, be it union or be it people from my constituency, they are very close to my heart. I mean, and I stand for people.
You're from the people, they vote for
Yeah,
you, so you have to be with the people.
with the people.
Okay, my final question to you is going to be on a bit of a personal note, quite frankly. I'd like to know what is it about Fawad Chaudhry, who is now Minister Chaudhry, and what has the journey been? You're a lawyer, and then we see over a decade and a half of you gradually entering politics. What was it that made you come this way? Did you always have a political bent?
Of course, you know, I have a very, we are a hardcore family of lawyers and
I'm talking about
politicians. So I came from that background. Our politics is about 100 years old. So what I'm trying to do, this is what actually my passion is. Always.
So this was always, you always knew that one day,
yeah,
I'm going to do this.
Well, I have been to Prime Minister, I've been to cabinet even before. So really.
But some children who are born into these families are least interested. Some actually say, look, this is my passion and goal.
Yeah. No, I think I'm a politician by passion.
Okay, and how much of your personal life have you had to sacrifice, because it's not easy?
Frankly, especially this ministry is very difficult. It's very, very, I would say time-heavy ministry, where it's not, if all the ministers have the luxury to get back to their homes at like 5 or 6 p.m. For us, the television starts at 6 p.m. So in the morning you have your the ministerial affairs, right, and then the meetings. And then it's a privilege to be as an information minister who happens to be one of the most important
ministries. It's a tough job. Like I said in the beginning, you need to have all the information, and you need to be on top of your game.
And you cannot be on the top of the game if you are not in the meetings, if you're not in the in the loop. So obviously you have to be very vigilant.
So in one line, you're saying your personal life has suffered.
Of course.
But luckily, I'm guessing your family is quite understanding. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to your family again for having taken out the time. I realize you've had a very busy day. It was a pleasure to speak to you. As always, thank you. Thank you for watching. I truly enjoyed this interview because it's always interesting to interview a politician who's forthcoming and honest and has a sharp sense of humor. As always, I truly hope that Pakistan is headed towards a brighter, prosperous and safer future. Thank you for watching. See you next time.